Imagine walking across a windswept Danish field. In the distance, a ring of stones stands like a sentence written by the land itself. Locals step around it in silence, some with reverence, some with curiosity, but everyone knows the stories, that these stones are watched over, that spirits hide in the burial mounds, and that trolls once prowled the hills and were turned to stone by daylight. Tonight on Matt Knows, we're digging into one of Scandinavia's oldest and most persistent mysteries, Denmark's troll stones and sacred burial mounds. Are these places haunted by spirits? Simple remnants of ancient funerary architecture? Or the perfect place for a conspiracy to grow? Stay tuned, and in the comments, tell us which side you believe. Hi, I'm Matt. Welcome back to the channel. If you like mysteries, legends, and the kind of questions that make you look twice at a lonely monument on the horizon, hit subscribe and ring the bell, because tonight we'll walk around stones older than written history and listen to the voices that have haunted them for 1,000 years. We'll examine the folklore, the troll tales, the whispered warnings, the do not disturb signs in local lore. We'll examine the archaeology, the dolmens, stone circles, ship settings and Viking mounds, and we'll put both sides against each other in a fair but fierce debate. By the end, you'll be able to decide, are these places sacred and protected, or are they simply stones that people turned into stories? Before we argue, we need to be crystal clear about the things we're talking about. First, dolmens and round barrows like Poskær stenes, huge capstones, chambers, and circles of stones arranged around a burial chamber. Poskær is one of the largest such round barrows in Denmark, built around 3300 BC, with massive upright slabs surrounding a capstone weighing many tons. These monuments were raised in the Neolithic and Bronze Age as communal burial and ritual sites. Second, stone ships and ship settings, lines of stones laid out in the shape of a ship that often outline a burial area. The famous Viking Age cemetery at Lindholm Høje includes hundreds of in situ grave markers and ship settings, spanning centuries of use and offering a clear archaeological record of funerary practice in the Iron Age and Viking Age. Third, long barrows and megalithic circles. Long earthen mounds like Grønsalen and clustered megalithic arrangements found across Danish islands, including ritual complexes that persisted over millennia. These are tangible, datable features in the Danish landscape. Finally, scattered monoliths, stone circles, and local-named stones, often given nicknames like troll stones or kalvestenene, and attached to local tales. On smaller islands like Jarno, ship settings and stone groups have inspired legends for generations. So when you see a ring of stones, a lone capstone, or a low hill with a neat circle of rocks, you are looking at something people have been returning to for thousands of years, either to bury their dead, to mark territory, or to stage rituals. Now the stories. In Scandinavian folk tradition, trolls are not merely fantasy monsters, they are a category of beings tied to the landscape, mountains, caves, boulders. A recurring theme across Old Norse and later folk stories is that trolls live in isolated rocks and mountains, and that sunlight can turn them to stone. This motif explains why strange rock formations are sometimes said to be trolls trapped in stone. Encyclopedias of folklore and classical references to Norse myth capture this idea clearly. Local Danish tales apply that same logic to burial mounds and stone rings. For many villagers, unnatural or conspicuous stones are the remains of a cursed or enchanted creature, or the stone shell of something that was once animate, a guardian, a giant, or a transformed creature. In some stories, spirits protect the dead. You get warnings: do not remove stones, do not sleep on the mound, do not whistle after dark. Or else the dead will wake, or the troll will reclaim what was stolen. These are living oral traditions. Even in modern tourism literature and local guidebooks you'll find versions of these tales preserved and retold. Why do these tales stick? Folklorists argue that narrative protects landscape. A story that turns a barrow into a haunted place discourages farmers from plowing, stonecutters from blasting, and children from turning over the sacred markers. The practical benefit of sacred stories protecting archaeological sites cannot be ignored. Let's switch gears to the cold, measured light of archaeology. Carbon dating, stratigraphic digs, pottery sequence analysis and cremation deposits give us dates and contexts. Sites like Poskær, a Neolithic round barrow, and Lindholm Høje, an Iron Age and Viking cemetery, have been the subject of archaeological excavation and study. Excavations at Lindholm Høje, for instance, revealed a site in continuous or repeated use across centuries, with evidence of cremation, grave goods, and later reuse as a symbolic landscape. These studies show ritualized funerary behavior, deliberate placement of stones, ship-shaped arrangements, and mounds deliberately placed on high ground or with views across the water. Archaeologists have also found evidence that some stone circles and timber circles were aligned to solar or lunar events. Passages that frame the rising sun at equinoxes are reported at several Neolithic sites in Denmark, and recent discoveries of a timber circle in Ars suggest a ritual landscape with parallels to Stonehenge in the UK. These features reveal intentionality. Prehistoric builders had cosmological ideas, seasonal rites, and social motives. Important note, archaeologists do not, and cannot, prove spirits or trolls. Their evidence can tell us when, how, and why stones were arranged and reused, but not whether an unseen guardian watches them. Science describes function and chronology, folklore addresses meaning and lived experience. Here's where the debate heats up. Argument A, folklore/sacred position. People who champion the sacred and supernatural reading say that continuity of folklore, the same stories passed down over generations, implies something persistent in the landscape, either a cultural memory of the dead, or even an active spiritual presence. They point to the very real protections these stories provide. Many sites survived because the locals feared them. They also cite first-hand accounts, uncanny experiences, and sudden weather changes near mounds as evidence that these places are charged and protected. Argument B, scientific/skeptical position. Scientists argue that human brains are primed to anthropomorphize and to create pattern from ambiguity. A stone with an unusual shape may be explained by weathering, glacial transport, or human quarrying, then a myth attaches to fill the explanation gap. Where excavations show clear funerary function, archaeologists say, this was a tomb, a marker, a social tool, not a guardian. They warn against post hoc supernatural attributions. Both sides raise valid points. Folklore preserves human meaning, archaeology preserves human action. Where the two intersect, the strongest explanation usually accepts both. For thousands of years stones were used as ritual and burial spaces. Later, people wrapped those spaces in stories that made the landscape morally and socially meaningful. Let's look at specifics. Poskær Stennes, the giant capstone and ring of uprights, is a Neolithic round barrow, built around 3300 BC. The site's scale and repeated use suggest a major communal function. Locals later attached legend: stones removed or disturbed brought misfortune, or, depending on the tale, the stones were giants or trolls punished by the sun. Archaeological study shows repeated human activity and careful, deliberate construction. Folklore shows later layers of meaning that protected the place. Lindholm Høje, a huge cemetery with ship settings and mounds, has been excavated and published on extensively. Its stone ships, cremation graves, and grave goods point to ritualized action. Ships reflect cosmology and a relationship to water. But local tales describe spirits and warn against disrespect. The museum at the site records how folk memory persisted into the modern era. Jarno and the Kalvestenine, small islands with ship settings and stone circles, offer another perspective. These grave outlines and rows of stones are obvious to anyone walking their shores, and where archaeological function is clear, local legends have overlaid extra meaning, tales of watchful spirits, of stone cattle, and trolls. Jelling, not a troll stone site but an essential comparison, is where Viking-era monumental expression becomes political propaganda. Runestones, mounds, and a vast stone ship were assembled to mark royal burial and to proclaim kingship. Here we see how stones are used deliberately as statements of power, and how later generations read or misread their meaning. This is why archaeology is important. It reveals the intentionality behind stone use. Because this channel thrives on controversy, we must address fringe claims. Some modern groups, from neo-pagan enthusiasts to conspiracy theorists, claim that burial mounds are sealed portals, or that spirit guardians protect buried treasure or ancient technology. Others suggest that archaeological professionals conspire to hide evidence of paranormal activity, the old, "they don't want you to know" line. Skeptical response: there is no verified evidence for portals or hidden technology beneath these mounds. Excavations, radiocarbon dating and artifact study provide a consistent story. These are cultural monuments tied to death, memory, status, and ritual. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and it isn't there. Nevertheless, it's worth asking why people want to believe this. Pagans and spiritual seekers often find meaning in these places. Conspiracy-minded viewers see secrecy where there may be ignorance or institutional caution. Now I want to hear from you. Below the video, tell us. Do you think there is a genuine spiritual presence at these sites, or are they purely archaeological artifacts? Have you visited a Danish barrow or stone circle and felt something inexplicable? If you believe they're protected, who or what is doing the protecting? Drop your comments, and if you want to follow up, type field, and I'll plan a short episode where we walk a mound and talk to locals. Also hit like if you appreciated the balanced take, share to spark debate, and subscribe for more episodes that put folklore and fact on the same scale. Thanks for watching Matt Knows. Whether you're here for ancient mysteries, folklore, archaeology, or a good argument, I hope tonight's journey through Denmark's stones gave you something to think about. We walked with the dead and debated with the living. For more, check the description for sources and links to the sites we discussed. I'm Matt, see you next time.